Exposed power supply contacts inside a metal casing. What could possibly go wrong? In May 2019, the company behind the BitBoy released the PocketGo, a handheld emulation console that was praised by the community for its sleek design and ease of use, but plagued with quality control issues. Fast forward to November 2019 and the PocketGo 2 was released with a larger screen and more powerful chipset. However, it also had its fair share of quality control problems. And finally in May 2020, the latest metal PocketGo was released, and I think I'm starting to see a pattern emerging here. Internally, the metal PocketGo is almost identical to the new PocketGo 2, which is a hardware revision of the PocketGo 2 that added a reset button as well as supposedly fixed a number of its issues. The system can emulate most retro consoles up to the PlayStation 1. DS and N64 emulators exist, but they serve more as a proof of concept and are not playable. Dreamcast is a no-no. Because the internal specifications are the same, I will not be covering emulation performance in this video as there are already plenty of good reviews that demonstrate this. Instead, I will be focusing on what stands out against the previous PocketGo, comparisons of the RG350M, and any quirks or problems I encountered while using the metal PocketGo. The metal PocketGo has the exact same physical dimensions as the PocketGo 2, however it is slightly smaller than the RG350M. Combined with its lighter weight and rounded design, the PocketGo is the more portable of the two. Personally, I also found that the curved edges feel more comfortable in the hand compared to the flat edges of the RG350M. Something that I like about the metal PocketGo is just how clean the design looks. There are no more markings for the buttons, whereas on the other hand, the RG350M has plenty of text everywhere, including this paragraph of regulatory information on the back that they could have left on the packaging instead. What the RG350M does offer though is colour options. In addition to this cool all-black design, it's also available in space grey and rose gold. If you go for the metal PocketGo, you're stuck with this industrial grey colour only. The RG350M also has rubber grips on the back that stop it from slipping or scratching against any surfaces it rests against, but the PocketGo doesn't have any grips. Durability-wise, both are top-notch and can be taken on journeys without worry. If you want to get a case though, any Nintendo Game Boy Advance or 3DS case will fit because they're similar in shape and size. The metal PocketGo uses the same 320x240 3.5-inch IPS display panel as the PocketGo 2 and has excellent viewing angles. Under normal usage, you shouldn't see any significant loss in image brightness or saturation. With the brightness set to 50%, the metal PocketGo is actually the least brightest out of the three, being surpassed by both the PocketGo 2 as well as the RG350M. That's not to say that the display is dark by any means, as the backlight makes it clear and crisp to view in the dark. And the image quality beats out all of the retro systems it emulates, even the ones with built-in illuminated displays. In terms of colour balance and saturation though, the PocketGo series always have warmer displays than the RG350M. The RG350M screen does seem to lack colour saturation, appearing visibly washed out compared to the deeper colours of the PocketGo. One of the biggest internal changes to the RG350M is the upgraded 640x480 resolution display. Driving 4 times as many pixels as the PocketGo, the RG350M not only looks sharper, but is also capable of supporting more advanced shaders. For example, the Game Boy emulator Gambate added support for dot matrix effects that make each in-game pixel pop just like on the original Game Boy, and this cannot work on the lower resolution displays of the PocketGo. On the flip side, this also means the RG350M eats up battery a lot quicker. As a matter of fact, it can last between 1 to 3 hours less than the PocketGo. A nice touch is that the displays of both the PocketGo and the RG350M are protected by a glass cover, which provides much better scratch resistance than cheaper devices with plastic screens. The only downside is that you have to be careful not to drop the device, or else this happens. One pet peeve of mine is getting dust under the screen cover, and unfortunately every PocketGo I've seen has come from the factory with dust inside. The metal PocketGo is no exception. The dust under the screen can be cleaned by removing the glass screen cover with a suction cup. For the purposes of demonstration, I'll be using the plastic PocketGo, however the process is the exact same for the metal one. Using a suction cup from a basic phone repair kit, loosen and open the glass cover like a hinge. Then take a clean brush and dust off the inside of the screen cover. Now do the same for the screen itself. Once the screen is dust-free, carefully tilt the glass back into place, making sure that no new dust particles enter while you're doing this. I should note that this is not an issue with the RG350M because the glass cover is laminated, so there's no air gap for any dust to enter. One of my favourite things about the PocketGo series is the controls. Both the D-pad and the buttons use proper soft membrane switches that are quiet and satisfying to press. The D-pad also uses a pivot design inside, so directional inputs are precise, and you never feel like you're pushing the entire pad down at once. For reference, the controls feel a lot like the ones on the Game Boy Pocket, which has my favourite controls out of the entire classic Game Boy line. The analog pad, however, is notorious for its poor quality, and this hasn't changed in the metal version. Instead of a joystick, the PocketGo uses a slider pad that even rotates in place. In comparison, the RG350M uses low-profile joysticks that are very similar to the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con controllers, but with a few minor internal differences. It's unclear if these will ever encounter drift, but so far I haven't seen anyone report it. The PocketGo also only has one analog control, whereas the RG350M has two. Not many games make use of the dual analog sticks, but for the ones that do, you're out of luck. One of the biggest problems of the PocketGo 2 was that certain inputs on the D-pad were unresponsive, and if you rapidly pressed a certain direction, then several of those presses might not properly register. This was caused by a flaw in the button contact design and plastic molding, which were supposedly fixed in later hardware revisions. When I first tested out the metal PocketGo, I had a similar issue, however when I opened it up, I found that the reason was because there were traces of residue on the PCB that covered the button contacts. After cleaning with isopropyl alcohol, the buttons worked perfectly. This doesn't seem to be a widespread issue, and no other metal PocketGo owners I know of have encountered this issue. One other minor problem with the buttons is the fact that they all sit loosely in the positions and will rattle loudly when the console is shaken. If you had one in your pocket, it would sound like you were carrying loose Lego bricks. To fix this, I combined several layers of sticky labels, cut them to size, and applied them to the insides of the buttons. Not only does this stop the rattling, it also reinforces the controls and makes them somewhat more responsive. Of course, it's not a PocketGo if it doesn't have any weird quirks, and the metal model has plenty of its own. One of the oddities is in the battery design. With the plastic PocketGo 2, the battery had its own compartment and was removable. However, the metal back casing is all in one piece, and while they've reused the same PCB design as the plastic PocketGo, the metal PocketGo's battery is now soldered to the contacts. These contacts are fully exposed without any insulation, and in my case they were pushed against the body of the battery, which caused a dent. If they ended up puncturing the battery, then this could be a serious safety hazard. I had to detach the battery from the backplate using a large spudger and reposition it so that it wouldn't overlap with the contacts. Just for good measure, I also covered both the contacts as well as the dent with electrical tape. A widespread issue of the PocketGo 2 version 2 was that many units shipped with a faulty slot 2 card reader. While these units could still boot the firmware from slot 1, users couldn't put their own ROM files on a secondary card. This has been widely reported on Reddit, and my plastic PocketGo 2 version 2 also has the same issue. Because the metal PocketGo uses the same PCB design, you may also run the same risk. My metal console works fine, but I've seen at least one case of a metal PocketGo user on Reddit with a faulty slot 2 card reader. A Reddit user by the name of Dragon Jacket TV has come up with a workaround that involves creating an extra partition on the primary card, which can then be used for ROMs. While this isn't ideal, I still encourage users with this issue to check out their tutorial, which I will link in the description below. Speaking of memory cards, on most devices when you eject the SD card it stays in the slot until you pull it out all the way. However, the PocketGo lacks a retainer, so you have to be careful, otherwise the card can end up being launched across the room and get lost somewhere. This issue is also present on the RG350M. One of the most useful features of the PocketGo is the dedicated menu button that will display the emulator options menu when a game is running. On the PocketGo 2 version 1, most emulators supported it, whereas on the PocketGo 2 version 2, the button was no longer marked and many emulators didn't work with it. Users speculated that the button was a dummy, however that's not actually true. The original PocketGo 2 ran its own firmware with its own button markings, so the emulators took that into account. The PocketGo 2 version 2 on the other hand runs the same firmware as the RG350, which doesn't have a dedicated menu button. The emulators that it shipped with were also custom built for the RG350, which is why they aren't programmed to pick up the menu button. It's possible to recompile emulators to make use of it again. This is a software issue and not a hardware fault. Speaking of software issues, the default firmware included with the Metal PocketGo doesn't have very sensitive volume controls. When increasing from a volume of 0, the level would jump straight to 32 instead of 1, making the lowest volume level still relatively loud. Many speculated that this was a hardware flaw, however this could be fixed by flashing the Rogue custom firmware which fixes audio levels. Links are in the description below. It's not just the volume, the PocketGo also has a strange audio issue when using headphones. When powering on the device or launching any software that uses sound, headphone users hear a loud pop as the system initializes the audio chip. Here's a demonstration. The situation isn't any better on the RG350M however, as not only does this happen with headphones, the RG350M's internal speakers exhibit this issue too. It's said that this can be possibly fixed in a future software update, however this is not guaranteed. One positive quirk is that the PocketGo 2 version 2 as well as the Metal PocketGo both support the use of fast chargers. The PocketGo 2 version 1 and the RG350 series only support USB chargers that supply 5V up to 2A and won't work with laptop or Nintendo Switch chargers. The Metal PocketGo will. Whether or not it actually charges faster is unclear, but the wider variety of chargers is a welcome bonus. So is the Metal PocketGo worth it then? Well, I really like the concept of this device. It's got a really nice design, the controls feel super comfortable, and being able to load up all of my favourite games from the past and play for hours is just amazing. In a perfect world where hardware faults don't exist and everything works the way they're intended, this could very well be the perfect emulation console. But we can't ignore the manufacturing problems, and more often than not you are the quality control for these companies. Granted, things do seem to be improving, and the faults on the Metal PocketGo are nowhere near as bad as on the previous generations. If you buy Metal PocketGo, you'll still be able to pick up and play out of the box, but there will always be these small quirks that bug you on the side. In most cases, they're not game breaking and you can repair them yourself, but if you're looking for a purely DIY project, then you probably already own a Raspberry Pi based device. If you want a device that just works and has minimal risk of manufacturing issues, then something like the RG350M or the Retroid Pocket 2 would be a good choice, even if they cost a little bit more. If, however, you're not afraid of doing some modding, or the minor issues don't concern you that much, then I'd say go for the Metal PocketGo. I hope my reviews helped you decide whether or not to get the Metal PocketGo. If you have any other retro handhelds, please sound off in the comments below and tell us what you think about your devices. I'd be interested to know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.